Here again at C&V Productions. My name is Cecil Lawson. I'm the owner of C&H Insurance and co-host of C&V Productions.
My name is Victor Moran. I'm an IT leader, aspiring entrepreneur. And today we have a special guest. We have Cesar. Cesar, welcome. Welcome to the show. For those that don't know you, who are you and what is it that you do?
Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here. For those of you who don't know, my name is Cesar Barros, and I am the founder and CEO of the Connecticut Business Networking Association. It's CBNA for short.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit about CBNA, your business. Why don't you tell us, what is CBNA for people that don't quite understand what the organization is? Let's start there.
Yeah, certainly. So CBNA, it's a professional networking and referrals organization for entrepreneurs, business professionals, and business owners who depend on word of mouth, referrals, and warm introductions to grow their business.
Right. Now, this is not a normal business for someone to start, right? So what was your why behind doing it? Why did you decide that this was something important to do?
That's a really great question. And this goes all the way back to when I first started CBNA. So originally, the purpose behind it wasn't to monetize it or to make a business out of it, right? At the time, I had a different profession. I was a sales representative, and my only objective was to be the best in my field possible.
Right.
In order to do that, I realized that I needed to start building real relationships right here in my own hometown, my own home state. And, referrals is kind of the name of the game when it comes to sales or when you're an entrepreneur growing your business for the very first time.
Yep.
So I felt the need for the very first time in order to build real valuable relationships, which would naturally lead to more referrals. So when I created the CBNA, it was more of an opportunity that I created for myself in order to start building relationships and systematize it so that I got referrals on a regular basis. Right. So it came more so from a personal need. I looked at other networking groups. Some were way too expensive. Others, they had networking events and meetings that just didn't fit within my time. Right.
Yep.
Cause I worked long hours. It was like 10-hour days because, a lot of what I did was cold calling. So I did like 200, 300 cold calls every single day.
Right.
And that left me with very little time to do anything else.
Yeah.
So I needed a networking group that, number one, was affordable, right? Met my budget because I was 100% on, commission. And then number two, allowed me to kind of network whenever I felt like I had the time, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't find that anywhere. So I decided to just build my own.
Right.
And it started as just a small online group. And then from there, it started to grow. People inside started to refer, more people to join the group. And within 6 months, we had about 200 and 200 plus members.
Right.
And then a lot of the members were requesting that I host networking events.
Right.
So that was a first evolution from online only group to like a hybrid organization.
Right.
So I started hosting events and they started becoming very effective at helping the people inside get more ROI, close business. And from there, due to a lot of the feedback we were getting from the members, we started to incorporate like meeting up at coffee shops.
Right.
And then from there, we developed leads and referrals groups.
Right.
So it was never like my plan to turn it into an organization.
Right.
And for it to become what it is today. But it just naturally snowballed into something bigger, right? And I think the majority of it was just our members providing feedback and just being excited. I got super excited about it. I was very passionate about growing the community to the point where I left my other profession to do this full time.
Wow, that's awesome.
Hey, Cesar, a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
For those people that are looking to start and grow their business, what would you say was the most successful, or what was, I guess, the biggest thing you learned, and how did you grow that network? How did you grow your clientele?
Yeah.
What specifically worked for you?
Okay. So the number one advice I would tell anybody, or I would give to anyone, is don't think too hard about the process. Just start, right? Because as I said earlier, I didn't intend for this to become an organization with 300, 50 plus people in my network, right? These are all vetted and verified individuals. I just took it one step at a time. You know, my entire focus from the beginning was just lay one brick per day, right? Take one significant step per day that kind of keeps the ball rolling. So my advice to any, entrepreneur starting out for the very first time is just, number one, make the decision to start in the first place. And then number two, make the decision to not stop, no matter how hard the process gets, right? Those are the two things you have to decide. Yep. Number one, start. Number two, don't give up, no matter what. Right. I think a lot of times, the reason why people fail in entrepreneurship or in business is not because they lack knowledge or information or that they're ignorant, or they're even lazy. It's because they give up too soon and then they chase the next shiny object. When in reality, you just got to stick with what you started. Everything is going to be hard. No matter what it is that you decide to do, it's all going to be difficult. You're going to, reach a point where you're going to encounter specific challenges for that niche or business that you are, that you're building. And, what an entrepreneur has to do is overcome those challenges. And the only way you can do that is if you stick with it, you stand your ground and you continue to move forward rather than jumping into something new. So, with my organization specifically, to answer the second part of your question, how I acquired my clientele. So originally it was just me, right? But in the process of building out this community, I built out real relationships, right? I didn't see it as a way for me to develop a multi-million-dollar organization. I built it in order to get referrals first and foremost. And naturally, right, what happens when you're looking for qualified referrals and word of mouth is that you treat the relationship with value, right? You're like, this person right here in front of me, they're more than just, it's more than like, what can I get out of that person, right? It's what can I do for them first, right? Because when you give, the other person is more likely to give back to you, right? So when you treat that person, right? Because you got to stop thinking of it from like a numbers perspective, right? In the beginning, I wasn't focused on how many people can I gain this week or how many people can I gain next week. It's like, let me focus on the people inside of my community first. Let me provide as much value as possible. Really, treat this as a relationship and build it out over time. And then if something awesome comes out of this, that's like a bonus, right? Yeah. But when you treat people, when you treat your customers and clients and more than just customers and clients, that's when they're going to want to help you. And then they're going to refer people to your organization, to your company, your service, product, whatever it may be. They're going to go and spread the word for you. They become like advocates, bringing new people to you. So.
Yeah. So just taking another step back, you mentioned difficulty and challenges. You mentioned moving from your full-time position and taking the big leap. What would you advise those that are at that stage? Again, the fear factor, making that decision. What conversations did you have, and how did you decide? What ultimately said, okay, I got to make this jump. I got to make this happen.
Now that is a hard question to answer because a lot of these conversations that led to the decision for me jumping from what I was doing before to doing CBNA full-time, those conversations were just between me and God. To be completely transparent with you, like, yes, I was meeting new people. They were joining CBNA. They were becoming members. They were getting value, but there still wasn't enough, rapport or trust for me to have that conversation with my members. Like, hey guys, when do you think I should leave this thing so I can focus on you 100%? Right. So this was more so just, me taking the time to, really just looking inward and just reflecting upon myself, really analyzing how I felt about certain things. It's kind of spiritual, right? And, I see myself as someone that, I'm always developing my relationship with God. So I see God as a very big part of my entrepreneurial journey, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything like that because I'm always working on new things every single day. But from the beginning, my thing has always been purpose and passion. So once I realized that I was no longer passionate about the thing that I was doing before, and that my passion and love for building this community, the CBNA, just kept growing bigger and bigger, I realized that maybe this is God telling me, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then once you reach that point, you have to ask yourself, are you preventing yourself from, taking yourself to the next level in your journey, right? And with me, I've always been a risk taker. I think that's like an innate quality for every entrepreneur, right? Yeah. Like we're just prone to taking risks, right? Mm-hmm. So it didn't take too much. Once I realized I was very passionate about what I was building, and I would really give 110% into my passion, I just went all in.
Yeah. I wanted to sort of come back to what you said earlier about not giving up on what you wanted to do. Now, I wanted people to kind of understand that not giving up doesn't necessarily mean that you continue to pursue something that you know is not going well, right? I think that's more of, if you started off as an entrepreneur, and I'll use myself as an example. I started one business before, right? And I put 100% into that business, but financially it just was not there, right? It just was not, the capabilities of it doing what I needed it to do was just not going to happen. And you have to make that decision that, okay, this has to end at some point. But what I never gave up on was being my own boss, right? And that's sort of the thing that I think a lot of business owners have to understand, because, we sort of look at it. It's like, man, this is my passion. This is what I want to do, right? But what you may want to do may not be where you need to be right now. This is going to be a learning session, right? So you may fail, but real entrepreneurs fail and continue on, right? Because you're not going to grow unless you fail, right? I've never met a person that's been 100% successful in everything that they've done and really been successful, because they haven't hit a situation where it's like, okay, now I've just been punched in the mouth and I got to keep moving forward, right? So when you're in that situation where you're down and out, you made the decision, I've got to do this, I've got to close the doors, that might be the right decision, but you've learned something from that and moved on. So would you say that, with what you've learned, touch the mic, but what you've learned from your business and keeping things going, now, have you had situations where you failed and you said, you know what, I may have failed at this, but I've learned something from it? Can you talk a little bit about some of those experiences you might have had?
Absolutely. So, for the audience, for all the viewers watching, right now I'm wearing a band, right? A wristband, and it's called Minds of Kings. This is actually my very first entrepreneurial venture when I was probably like 20, 21, 22 years old.
Right.
Still living at my parents' house. I remember, at the time, I was only a couple years out of high school, chose not to go to college.
Right.
And I watched like one episode of Shark Tank. And I'm like, bro, you could literally be an entrepreneur and start your own business. Like, that's a thing. Right. They didn't teach me that in high school. Right. I was taught to go to college and, find a profession, a career, and stick with it, right? So, like my parents, they weren't entrepreneurs. My father, he works in construction. So I wasn't taught this way of thinking. I wasn't given this mindset. But for some reason, I watched one episode of Shark Tank and it opened my mind up to a new perspective. Because at the time, I started working when I was 16 years old, still in high school, right? But by the time I was, 21, 22, I've worked at several companies, so I've gained some experience. And I knew at the time that I didn't like authority. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
I hear you.
It kind of sucks. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I have to be at this, I have to be in this building at a certain time every single day. Boss tells you something that doesn't really, sit right with you. Maybe it's like against your morals or whatever. You still have to do it because like you got to get paid, right? So it's like, I didn't know there was another way.
Right.
I didn't think it was possible for you to be your own boss, like you mentioned.
Right.
But, when I watched that first episode of Shark Tank, and I know it sounds silly, but that was like the thing, right? They talk about like getting bitten by the entrepreneurial bug.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think, that first episode exposed me to a new way of thinking, and I decided to start my own thing, right?
Nice.
At first, I thought that I needed to become like a Mark Zuckerberg and learn how to code, build my own website, get all techie and whatnot. But, later on, as time passed, I just put all of my passions together. And at the time it was fitness, it was fashion, and it was, entrepreneurship. Right. And then I put it all together, and then I decided to create a lifestyle and fitness brand, which was called Minds of Kings.
Okay.
I took whatever I learned from those books that I bought. I built myself a website. I taught myself the basics of photography. I had like 1 or 2 people to model my clothing, and I just got a bunch of t-shirts and I put it in a duffel bag and I sold them at the gyms. I sold them in the streets from the trunk of my car. I actually made a lot of money.
Oh,
some days I would leave the gym with like $200, $300 in my pocket.
Nice.
And that's where I really learned sales. Right. But what I learned in the process is that I'm only good at selling when it's something that I'm truly passionate about and I believe in 100%. Because you can sell anything. And some people really can't sell anything because they have that gift. But for some reason, I don't know if it's like people can feel your passion or your energy or the love that you have for it. But when it's something that I truly love, I almost always sell it no matter what. Right. Because at the end of the day, I'm not convincing you about the product itself, but I don't know, like you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
It transcends words. So I did that and I was very good at it, but I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes because though I was passionate about starting my own business and potentially being my own boss, I didn't really understand finances. I didn't really understand how to deal with numbers. I didn't understand how to properly flip the money that you receive into your business to go and reinvest and get more product and things like that. So it's one thing to go and start something new, and then it's another thing to really start developing new skills like marketing, branding, sales, developing systems in order to make room for scale, right? Like how do you scale a business? How do you know when it's time to hire out employees for your business, right? These are things that if you didn't go to school for, you kind of have to learn by going through the process, right? And so my 20s has always been like an educational playing field, right? Like I didn't go to college, but I feel like I learned a lot of what has helped CBNA become successful now from just trial and error. Just consistently failing. Right. But it's not really a failure if you learn from it.
No, it's only a failure when you quit.
Right.
That's the thing.
100%. Yeah. So I just kept doing it. And you have to be okay with failure. You have to accept it as being a part of the process, right? So that requires you to let go of a certain degree of fear. Like you just got to go for it.
Yeah. I know that we can, and I'll let Vic ask the next question, but just to piggyback on that, we get into a situation when we're younger. Like you said, a lot of these things you're not going to learn in school, but you have your family members around. And if you have been to a point, a certain type of person in your family, been seen as a certain type of person, failure is something that you may not experience, have never experienced. And then when you do, when you look at it and you're like, well, man, you're like, it can hurt your soul to an extent, right? But the reality is you have to go through that. You have to hit that situation in order to move on to the next step.
Is that brand something you're still selling or?
So I kept the LLC. It's active, right? Okay. But I stopped selling it. The t-shirts, the apparel, all operations have ceased because my entire focus is just CBNA and my family. But one of the reasons why I kept running into failure in my 20s is kind of what I mentioned before. It's like once something isn't working or isn't growing as quickly as you expect it, a lot of people, they pivot too soon and they start focusing on the next shiny object, right? So when I created CBNA, when I first started it, I made the decision to start and never give up. So a part of that was I had to do something differently, something that I've never done before. And that was just focus on one thing, right? Because there's like I think it's like a Russian proverb or something like that. When the man or woman that chases multiple rabbits catches neither. So I was like, if I'm going to succeed at something and really make it successful, I want to focus on just one thing and one thing only because I'm pouring 100% of my time, effort, and energy into that one thing. And once I realized that I was very passionate about growing CBNA, I decided to make that my one and only focus. And that's the reason why we've been growing very, very quickly. right? Because if I was still doing selling t-shirts and, briefly in my 20s, I did personal training for a little bit. So if I was doing that and that plus growing CBNA, neither would be successful, right? It would be like, my focus, time, and energy are being split times 3. So it's better to just put everything into just one thing and just make it work, right? And not have any backup plans.
Yeah.
That's great that you said that.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah. No. So saying the level of focus that you have early on, what were some of the challenges like that you would say would typically deter people that you share
with community building?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the challenges. So in the beginning, right, my intention wasn't to monetize CBNA. So there was a time when CBNA was a completely free community. Like anybody can join. We host the CBNA community on a platform called School. Anybody can go and create their own group. You can monetize it if you like. But my focus was just to build out a solid community of people who just help each other out. I didn't know that I wanted to turn it into like an actual business and a career, right? Cause my time, energy, and focus was being split between sales and growing CBNA. I was doing sales during the day for like 10 hours, and then I would go home, spend a little bit of time with my kids, with my family. And then, I would dedicate like 4 or 5 hours before going to sleep to like CBNA. So I wouldn't go to sleep until like maybe like midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning just to do it again the next day. Right. Yeah. So I did dedicate a specific, amount of time towards growing CBNA. But even with a free community, it was very difficult to grow the member base because a lot of people, I ran into some individuals who would join just because they felt pressure to join, but then never log in ever again. They became inactive. Yeah. I ran into some people who thought I was a scammer, just reaching out to them to join this community. I'm like, I've never heard of you. I've never heard of this platform. I'm not joining. Right. So even with a free community, it was very difficult to build a foundation of it. Right. But also, let's say you did get that person to join your community, right? How do you get that individual to stay active?
That's the thing. Yeah.
Most people will join. Well, a lot of people will join, but most will not be active on your platform. They're not going to mirror the behavior that you want them to have coming into your community. So as a community builder, it's not just about getting people to join your thing. It's about getting them to participate and actually buy into your thing. Right? How do you get them to see the value and see your vision? Right? You yourself as a founder have to mirror that, the type of behavior that you want them to have. You have to do it first. So what I did was I just led by example. I made posts. I commented on all of my members' posts. And from there, it takes time. Everything takes time. It didn't happen overnight. Right. But, after some months, the new people that are coming in, they kind of start to see the vibe. And you're like, I'm going to do that too. Right. So then the new people start setting the example for the old people. So it was challenging, especially for my very first event. I had like 16, 17 people that showed up.
Well, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Now that's the size of our average chapter, leads and referrals group. Right. Yeah. Our events now are like 70 people. Yeah. Right. And that's without marketing, no brand, no meta ads, nothing, just internal promotion. Wow. Right. So it's like, it's something that I'm very thankful, very grateful for. But in the beginning, it was very, very difficult to get people to come to these events, even within our own member base. Yeah. But the first event only had 16, 17 people. It was a hit. It was a really good experience. A lot of the members felt like they could actually work the room and make valuable connections. Sometimes when you have an event and it has way too many people, certain individuals may feel overwhelmed, especially if you're an introvert. Right. Yeah. Right. And that's one of the challenges I faced, because a lot of people get surprised when I tell them that I'm naturally an introvert. So imagine an introvert who's kind of like shy with people building a networking and referrals organization. Like that's super opposite of like the type of person that you are. Yeah. So I had to overcome myself.
That explains why we're in black, by the way, because we're both introverts as well.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, right. Yes. You want to kind of blend in with the shadows, right? Like Batman.
Yes. It's funny because our last episode where we
talked about
networking and actually we talked about a few things that you brought up. But for those business owners that, I guess, what would you say is the biggest misunderstanding for business owners when it comes to networking and maybe joining a group, attending these events? What's the biggest misunderstanding?
The biggest understanding that a business owner has about networking is that you're going to get referrals, leads, in business right at that first meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, it could happen.
Yeah, good.
And I know we talked a lot about this at our meetings, but the real success is going to happen behind the scenes when you're not at the meeting, right? So I encourage our members. We encourage our members inside CBNA. Like, you want to do one-on-ones with people, right? Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to, show up to an event or to a meeting, get somebody's business card, and then likely they're never going to reach out to you, or you might forget to reach out to them. So what's really going to lead to business is you scheduling one-on-ones, whether that's like a virtual call or in person. You want to stay in touch with the people that you meet. You want to follow up, right? Follow through, especially. And then when you do meet with that individual, whether, on a call or in person, your primary concern or objective should be, what can I do for this person?
Right.
You don't want to lead with, hey, so this is what I do. Do you know anybody that can benefit? Like, put yourself in their shoes and be like, how can I provide value to you first? Because then they're going to pay attention, and then they're going to treat that new relationship with more respect as well. And then the funny thing happens is when you give first, people feel more obligated to give back.
Yeah. Well,
and they'll do it naturally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's some psychological reasons behind it too.
Yeah. And the whole thing, and just full disclosure to everyone, I am a member of CBNA, right? The biggest thing that I like about the groups is the networking, the networking groups that are pulled together, because you get to meet a group of people on a regular basis. You get to know them. They get to know you. And I always look at, you go into these organizations, these groups, everyone there is a possible sales rep, and you have to learn to become a possible sales rep for all of them. And we've had this discussion. And going back to your thing about the introverts, we are actually very key on those types of relationships, because introverts may not want to go out and get to know every single person in the room, but every person that they get to know, they actually know, right? And they're looking to build that relationship, and those relationships tend to last a lot longer. So, CBNA, from an organization, I give it a big thumbs up.
Thank you.
Very good organization. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Well, I will say this also, right? I don't know if it's proven. I don't know if it's a proven fact, but I personally believe that introverts make the best networkers.
Oh yeah, I agree. 100%. 100%. 100%.
You know why?
Because the relationships we build.
Yes. And they're likely to listen more than they speak.
That's absolutely.
Because when you let the other person speak, right? And I actually learned this from, what was that book? It was, How to Influence, How to Make Friends and Influence People. Oh, that one. Okay. By Dale Carnegie, right? Mm-hmm. People like to speak about themselves.
Yes.
More than they like to listen about other people. It's just human nature. That's how we're wired, right? Introverts are less likely to speak because they may have some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like self-confidence issues. They don't want to they
really don't want to be out, and they'll keep everything close to the vest. Right. They don't really like to get to know, like an introvert doesn't need to know 500 people. Right. They're fine with knowing 5 good people.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So when you approach a new individual at a networking event, at a meeting, you're more likely to listen to what the person has to say. And ironically, when you listen more than you speak, that person will remember the conversation as being a favorable one. Like, wow, that person really took the time to listen to me. Yeah. Really get to know me. Yeah. Even though they didn't really get to know you, they still left the conversation feeling like they got valued. Right. Because a lot of times people want to be heard. Yeah. Right. You'll get on the phone with an elderly individual and all they want to do is talk. Yeah. But then even though you said like 2 or 3 words, they were like, thank you so much for this conversation. Like, I had a blast. Right. And at the end of the day, that's what keeps the relationship moving forward. So, a lot of us who are introverts or extroverts, I always urge the members, do your best to just listen. You don't have to say too much. Just listen. And that is how you build relationships over time. Because you also want to learn about people too. Right?
Definitely. Yeah. So tell us, what does CBNA have going on? Is there anything you'd like to bring up? What's the new thing that people should know about, and how can they contact you and be a part of CBNA?
Absolutely. So CBNA right now, what we offer, we have an online platform. So we're a hybrid organization, right? So we have our own online community platform with all of our members. We have 300 and I think we're approaching 360 right now.
Yeah.
Which is insane. In only a year and some change.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I started this group back in January of 2025.
Great.
Yeah. And also, full disclosure, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but I actually lost my voice like 3 days ago. So I sound a little raspy right now.
No, you're doing pretty good.
Thank you.
I'm surprised.
I was like working, I was like drinking hot tea like for the last 3 days. I'm like, I better get my voice back before this podcast. Like, I'm not missing this for the world. You know? It's a great experience. Honestly, I'm very thankful to you guys for having me on the show. So, to answer your question, we have an online community platform where we gather all of our members online so that they can exchange referrals. They don't have to wait for a meeting or an in-person event in order to meet people and exchange referrals. Right. The majority of networking is really just staying connected, which is why the online platform is so important. And that's where our members promote their business. You can think of it as like a Facebook group, just not hosted on Facebook, right? Aside from that, we have networking events every single month. So we get all of our members, our member base, who are like 98% of them are here in Connecticut. And we bring them together so that they can network in person at a networking event. We choose a venue, we cater food, we cater drinks. It's a really good time. Sometimes we have a DJ. Overall, it's a great experience, but we treat it as like you can think of it as like a CBNA wide conference where we go over our numbers, statistics, how much business our members have generated. So that way you can see that we're organized. Well, we are organized, but you can see that our members are getting results in real time. And then aside from that, we also have leads and referrals groups. So a leads and referrals group, for those of you who don't know, that's where a group of individuals, it could be anywhere between 10 to 30 people, we meet periodically, whether weekly, biweekly, or monthly, in order to exchange leads and referrals in real time. We practice our presentation, so you learn how to communicate in front of an audience, and we make warm introductions in real time as well. Sometimes these could be virtual, but all of CBNA leads and referrals groups, we meet in person. And sometimes we cater breakfast too, so it's a good time. And what's next for CBNA? So currently, I'm working with several individuals in order to really perfect the leads and referrals model for CBNA, right? Because right now, we're doing pretty good and our members are getting amazing results from it. But my mentality, my mindset is always, how can we make this better before moving on to the next thing, right? So my main focus is really just to make things better, operations-wise, system-wise, so that way we can help our members get better results from these specific type of meetings. But what's coming after this? I mean, we're gonna do an internal announcement with CBNA, but that's something that will happen in Q3.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I'll have to come back for part 2.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah. But more to come.
More to come. And
Nice.
it's gonna take CBNA to a completely different level. Our members are gonna find a lot of value from what we're about to roll out. It's gonna be incredible. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So we did branch out to New York, by the way.
Right.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have 4 leads and referrals group, and the latest one is actually in New York City. We have 8 members, and we just launched that like a week and a half ago.
Yep.
So we are growing rapidly, and I'm projecting that by the end of the year, we'll likely have 20 plus chapters just here in Connecticut,
Nice.
all over New York as well. So.
Nice. Awesome. Well, it was great having you on. I think our viewers got a lot of good value out of hearing from you. And listen, you're doing great things with CBNA, and we're really looking forward to hearing more about what's coming.
Thank you so much.
And thank you again for joining. And thank you all for watching.
All right. Thank
Take
you.
care.